Welcome to Vector.
Three, two, one, action.
Hello everyone. This is Peter Gregorio. Welcome to the Vector Interview Podcast. Each episode focuses on a different artist. We meet in person and have an in-depth discussion about life, art, and the concepts behind their work. I am an artist, I'm based in Brooklyn, and I'm the director of Vector Productions, Inc., where along with my co-director, the Norwegian artist Javier Barrios, we publish the international artist zine Vector. We also host different art-related events, exhibitions, publications, and performances. We think that the power of the artist's vision is a driving force in the evolution of attitudes, ideas, and culture, which must be enhanced to challenge and inspire the world. Before we begin, a quick update on some of the projects we are working on for the future. I'm going to Norway in January to work with Vector's co-director Javier Barrios on a new science edition of the Vector Artist Journal. Javier will be leading this project, which will consist of a collection of essays by artists from around the world who are influenced by scientific concepts. I will also meet with Monica Holman. She is a curator at the Nia Center for Contemporary Art in Lillestrøm. She is a co-editor for Kunstform magazine and a freelance writer on the music scene in Norway. We're going to team up and do Vector Sound, which will be an event with live performances by a collection of experimental musicians based in Norway with a vinyl album. I will post updates for these and other projects in the works on the Vector website, so stay tuned. If you like the podcast, the journal, or any of the projects we're working on, we ask that you support us by becoming an ongoing subscriber. This helps us continue to do this podcast and the other Vector projects. You can also make a one-time contribution for this episode. 50% of the proceeds will go to the artist. You can find the links here and on our homepage. Today's episode is with the Italian artist and musician Federico Delfratti. I first met Federico while I was in Munich working on the Munich edition of Vector Artist Journal. I was visiting an open studios at a subsidized art building. I wandered into the studio with all these maps and graphs on the wall, with a bunch of equipment around the room, and a rowing machine with wires coming out in front of a green screen. I was intrigued. Federico was speaking English with an Italian accent, talking about a project he was working on that had to do with virtually walking around the world in real time using Google Maps. I could hear the obsession in his voice about all the planning and challenges involved with trying to actualize the project. He reminded me of a scientist out of an H.G. Wells novel like The Time Machine, or Jules Verne's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. After his talk, I asked him if he would be interested in being one of the contributing artists to the Vector Munich edition, which he did, and it was great. Originally from Legnano, Italy, where he studied graphics and game design at the Politecnico University of Milano. Federico eventually found himself immersed in the visual arts and enrolled in the sculpture program at the Fine Art Academy in Munich, where he currently lives and creates installations, interactive social experiments, and performances. His work translates ideas from the physical and social sciences, such as geography, physics, and astronomy, into artistic forms that express the constant flux of nature and cultural patterns, framing their complexity into meaningful pathways of understanding. In his project Around the World in 80 megabytes per second, wearing VR goggles while walking on a treadmill hooked up to Google Earth, he is on a virtual journey walking around the world in real time. In his own words, the performance aims to translate every physiological and psychological experience, a carnet de voyage that functions as a dialogue between virtual and physical realities. A platform to disrupt their boundaries and overlap their nature, juxtaposing the physical self to the virtual representation of Earth and questioning the relationship between a human being and what its natural environment really is. In addition to this project, which will probably take him years, he's working on an electric concept album about post-apocalyptic cyborg birds with his band Kunststoffwerkstatt, an English synthetic materials lab. Parallel to this, he's doing research on Timothy Morton's object-oriented ontology and his philosophy of hyper-objects, which he says will be the central theme for his next musical/installation/performance project. You gotta love the absurdity of artists and how they think. It makes me happy.
Welcome to Vector!
Last but not least, he is preparing an ongoing exhibition in his atelier with Judith Neunhauser, in which they will set up a concept bar entitled A Bar at the End of the Universe, as a homage to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy trilogy by Douglas Adams. You can find out more about Federico Delfratti on his website, federico-delfratti.com. I have posted a few links here and on the Vector website. This discussion was recorded around 9 months ago in Federico's studio in Munich. We talked about his projects involving digital technology, artificial intelligence, celestial objects, and tardigrades. Welcome, Federico Delfratti.
This is Vector.
All right, cool. So we're rolling there. Let me roll this.
I'm also rolling a cigarette.
Yeah, I think it's good. All right. And we'll start slow. This is always like a little awkward in the beginning. And then we just forget about it. Yeah, so tell me your name and where we are.
So we are in Munich. I am Federico Delfratti. We are in my studio in the Baumstrasse. Welcome.
Yeah, welcome. I love your studio. I never quite know where to start. It's different with every person. We'll start with the studio. Like, you're from Italy.
Yeah.
Where are you from in Italy?
Next to Milan. And I studied in Italy for most of my life and lived in Milan also for a while. And let's say after the high school, I wanted first to become a video game designer.
Oh, really?
That's why I started to study graphic design, because I thought I would move slowly into animation and the like. And but after studying communication design, I thought perhaps the fine arts are a better way for me to be creative. And I tried a master in printmaking in Milan for a year, and then through the Erasmus program, where you can exchange for 6 months your university place within Europe, I came to Munich, where I just stayed and never moved back.
Was it 1 year or one semester?
It was 1 semester.
Okay.
Like
I think I met some Spanish
it could be
people from the same program. Is it?
Yeah.
It's an international program?
It's an international, it's mostly European, but I think this Erasmus thing, it's a European-driven exchange, but there are multiple ones.
Do you apply for it?
Yeah, you
or
apply.
Or you're selected? Okay.
No, you apply. Most of the people really get it, and it depends on the destinations. Like when I applied, I wanted to come to Germany, but I thought of going to Berlin,
right.
Because
center.
I didn't really know Germany that well. But my professor redirected me immediately to Munich. Said, go to Munich, the academy there, it's much better. Cool. I don't know about the academy in Berlin, but I do know about this one here in Munich, and it was great.
Well, it's so historical, right?
It's
got a long history. So many people went through there. I mean, I am so impressed by it just from going there.
Yeah, it has an aura.
I mean, as an American, I can't believe you have 5 years free. That blows me away.
Yeah, it does. It really does.
So you were in the academy in Milan.
Mm-hmm.
How do you go from game design, and then why do you choose printmaking?
It was game design in the first place, But I never really wanted to program. I wanted to do the artworks behind it. So the illustrations, the art concept, the concept art.
Did you always draw?
I always draw comics.
Did you think of yourself as an artist?
No, not really. No, back then. No.
I didn't.
No, I think I was, 18 when 19 when I graduated from high school, and I decided to do video game design. Back then I thought, most probably I'm a creative person, and I know that I can draw, and I like to do that, so that was the first step. And within this university in Milan, it was more communication design oriented and less illustration. But since it was a really good school, I thought of continuing it for 3 years, so I have the bachelor done. And in those 3 years, the dream of becoming a video game designer kind of faded away, and I was more focusing on communication design, so corporate image and all that stuff.
Okay.
So it was a lot of graphics in its sense. But since I tried then to work as a freelance graphic designer and illustrator in Milan, I think it was due to perhaps my personality or the lack of luck in finding the good clients. I always had to run around after payments that would never arrive, so it was really, really a frustrating job, and I thought I just want to be creative for myself and not for somebody else. And this is why I thought, let's move to a fine art academy where I could continue my graphic studies within printmaking, although in a more classical sense. And then it kick-started a chain reaction that brought me here in Munich, in which I got assigned to a sculpture class. And since then, I love the academy, so I applied as an official student, as a regular student, and I was always in that class. So being in a sculpture class and constantly doing printmaking was not really matching that well after a couple of months. And so I stopped doing printmaking, although I always enjoyed it. But I thought, let's try the third dimension, and that.
And now somehow you kind of are integrating a lot of the game stuff too.
It's
now
funny.
You're programming.
It's
but
funny
I
that it
love
all
that
came back.
because it's like, you focus on one thing, you focus on another thing, and then eventually, I guess you find yourself, and then you maybe integrate all of your interests.
This is the point. Yeah.
And that takes a lot of time, I think.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I never did printmaking, but I tried it last year for the first time, and I loved it. I did silk screening. I don't know if that counts. Does it?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so
it is. Well, I guess
but I loved it,
yeah.
and I want to do more of it. And that's not normal for me. It's like instant art.
Yeah,
it's amazing. My work takes forever, so it's so nice to spend one day and then have a whole series of works. It was amazing.
But also the physical process of doing it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
It's more concrete.
And the academy is kind of unusual, right? Because you're working with one person and it's open. It's not like there's no classes necessarily.
Well, there are, but they are absolutely not non-mandatory.
So you just take something if you want to learn something, like.
Yeah, precisely. It depends. Well, if you are in the free arts department, there are also art pedagogy. Pedagogy, yeah. And
I don't know what that is. Pedagogy.
Like art teaching.
Oh,
and they do frequent most of the classes, so the labs, but they also have to attend seminars and stuff like that. So that because at the end they're expected to write a final essay about their.
It's geared towards getting some kind of certificate or something.
Yeah, it's more university.
Yeah,
it's more aligned to standard universities.
You can use all the facilities there, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Although I never used them.
I think
I used
it was the same for
two.
me. Like I went to SVA in New York, and I think I could have taken courses anywhere. And I feel a little bit dumb for that now, that it's over.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh well. As an alumni, can you go back and use the facilities?
No.
Okay.
No. Being in the academy really helped. Besides getting the piece of paper in the end, it's the journey through it. I mean, what you learn from your classmates, from your professors, from the.
I mean, for me, the connections I made with my other students.
Yeah.
Almost everything I did in the first 5 years was because of the other students that I worked with. And I was lucky because I wound up being an assistant to one of the professors for 2 years, so that was cool.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's a different world in New York.
have literally no clue.
Yeah, it's okay. I actually really like it here. I think there's a lot going on here. Yeah, so you stayed in Munich. Why? I think I asked you this last year, but I want to hear you say it on audio. So what's wrong with Milan? Why doesn't Milan have a big art world, or does it? I don't know much about it.
To be honest,
it's Italy. I mean, Italy should have a huge... Italy should have a Berlin in Italy, you know what I'm saying?
And Milan is the Berlin of Italy.
Yeah.
But it became that in the last 10 years.
Okay.
When I was already here in Munich. So I kind of witnessed it passively by coming back sometimes during the year. And I went to some exhibitions of friends, of old friends who studied in the academy. There is something going on, but back then when I left it, the possibilities were really, really limited, and the academy itself was really unorganized. I don't know how it is now. I hope it's better, but it was heavily unorganized and overcrowded. Let's say as a freshly graduated student, the opportunities were near to zero. I mean, I spoke with friends who graduated when I was already when I started, and they said, yeah, well, now I think I'll just go back to work. And I don't know if it's their specific case or I can generalize more. Of course. But the reality, I mean, what I found here throughout the studies and also after the academy is this constant availability of applications or invitations to make like studios that for you can get for 5 years. I mean, being a smaller world here in Munich, I guess it has much more possibilities to
I agree.
offer.
I mean, like I keep doing projects here and people are open to it and they're supporting them. I just follow my projects and it keeps leading me back here. I don't know why.
It's a comfortable city in a way, but it has its limitations as well, I think.
Of course, when everybody graduates, there's always that pressure to go to somewhere like Berlin because you want to be part of the scene.
Or drown in the scene.
Yeah, drown in the scene. But you gotta go do that, right? Now, I mean, I grew up in New York, so I didn't need that.
Yeah, okay.
I don't need that push or pull to go anywhere.
Well, to be honest, I thought I'm gonna have the studio until for 1.5 years more, and then everybody here needs to move.
Oh, they're shutting
else.
it down?
No. It's every 5 years there is a new contract. It's going to be a new generation of people who move in.
And everybody goes at once?
And everybody goes at once.
It's not like...
No. It's every 5 years. Then you have this exodus.
5 years, my God.
And but I thought...
I think in like 6-month terms. I've never thought in 5-year terms.
Yeah, me neither. I never had a contract that would last 5 years. It was really... But I thought of going... I mean, I want to go somewhere else other than Munich, but I'm still a bit skeptical about Berlin. I have... I mean,
you could always go there and try it for a year.
Well, I'd really love to go to Amsterdam. Then,
I'm saying some other center you can try.
Yeah.
Well, center. I don't mean Berlin. I mean Berlin as a metaphor.
No, the plan A, it's Amsterdam, and there is no plan B. If it doesn't work out with Amsterdam, then who knows? I'll figure it out.
For me, there's a kind of seriousness about art here.
What do you mean?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm comparing it to New York. I mean, people are serious about art in New York too. I'm saying, but it feels like in New York, like the art world is sort of a subculture that's separate from the rest of the... Mm-hmm. And here it feels like somehow there's more integration. Just the way people talk to me when I'm doing exhibitions or projects, they really are into it and they get deep. It's not just like, hey, good job, you know.
Well, really, there is that as well.
Yeah. I know, but it's not as bad as how it is, I think. I don't know, there's something, maybe it's just the funding. The culture kind of cares, it seems like more. We don't have a lot of public funding.
Definitely. Well, here in Bayern, it's crazy good in comparison to other regions of Germany. Like friends in Berlin admitted the fact that in Munich the opportunities were better financed, more opportunities.
It seems like they've got the art school, they've got the museums, they have galleries, there's private corporations, public funding, They've got some of the things that Berlin, I guess, doesn't have. But then it doesn't seem like they have as many artist-run projects or younger kind of...
There are, but you
galleries.
can count them on your fingers.
Like, I'm wondering if people were staying here and doing more of these things, if it would activate this kind of epicenter. Like if Munich can become an epicenter again.
Yeah.
Kind of like it used to be.
But it is starting. I mean, I think in like the percentage of people that really leave Munich after the studies, it's really limited. So that the majority are staying here.
They are staying.
And there are, like I said, through countless applications, there are projects that are popping up every now and then. The thing is that there are the chances for something to happen, but it's just about how long it's allowed to exist. And a lot of places of spaces, they're always used for a limited period of time. So even if you start an artist-run space that does exhibitions, workshops, kind of whatever, most of the cases have like an ending. I mean, they know that after 1 year they will have to leave.
Yeah, I was part of one when I was here last year.
Ah.
I had a studio in a place. It was an old building on Marienplatz.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah, that was so cool. And I couldn't believe that was so short. It was 6 months. That was it. And I think the building had been empty for years.
But this is also a problem because as a kick-started project, I mean, as a group of artists that get together to start a project in a space that know that will have to leave anyways in 1 year, so that the chances of of creating something that stays, it's really limited. I mean, there are some colleagues of mine, and they used this concept of having to move from place to place as a bit of a statement.
Oh, and they just
so they
integrated it into the...
Yeah, so they organize these
formula.
talks
That's
that takes place every time somewhere else.
Yeah. I love how you can just conceptualize something, so
Yeah,
turn it into,
yeah.
You guys have to move. Oh, shit.
Well, what if we make moving the whole concept?
Yeah, that's part of our project, the moving. All right, so you were in the sculpture class. God, there's so much to talk about. I don't know where to start. We haven't even talked about your work. I'm like saving it, you know. I'm trying to push it as far. Maybe I'll just jump right into that. So you actually made, and I'm not just complimenting you, you actually made one of my favorite artworks. So
Which one? The walking around the earth, you mean?
No.
Which one? Ah,
the sun.
The sun.
Something about that, I think, is like, it just blew my mind.
Oh, I'm happy to hear that.
I think it's so simple and was probably so hard to make. I don't know. I think it's something else. I don't even know if it's art. It's just, it hit me on this primal human being level, you know, that's
precisely how I felt.
But I like it in a specific way. I don't think he showed it in the way.
Mm-hmm. I remember when you told me.
I like it side by side.
To keep it the horizon.
As one line.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even know if that's your intention, but at least you showed it to me that way, so that's how I saw it.
Yeah, well,
and
it's two videos that can be shown in a way, a lot of...
And I actually tried to advocate them doing that at the Haus der Kunst when I was curating the American artists.
Yeah.
I told them I wanted you to show that. Oh. But I don't know why it didn't work out. I mean, I had no control over the artists here in Germany.
Yeah, it's all right.
I only had control over the American, but I wanted them to show it.
Oh, I remember because Connie told me that it was it needed to be an artwork that was never shown in Munich, and since I already showed it, then it was out of the picture.
Who cares? Anyway,
whatever.
I don't buy that. But anyway, whatever. She didn't want to show it. But if I ever have a chance to show that in anywhere, if I ever curate anything, I'm going to show that. So.
Yeah, I would really love to show it.
And it's not, I really want to show it. People should see it. Like, that's one thing that's a little frustrating, I think, when you make something
and then you can't show it.
Like the piece I showed at the Haus der Kunst video.
Yeah.
I mean, 5 years I've been waiting to show that. But I finally got to show it in the scale I wanted. Because you saw the scale.
Of course.
It was just there's nowhere I could do that. And it was small in that space. So, yeah, so I want to see that. I picture it in my mind I guess I should say what it is because we're doing this audio.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe you should say what it was. Why don't you tell us the story? Tell me the story behind that.
Okay.
You can be super detailed. You don't have to rush.
Yeah. Well, I just have to remember how it all began.
Yeah.
It started out with a bit of the focus of my research back then was always to this astronomical interest in scales, so the human scale versus the universal scale, so the contrast between a single individual and planet Earth. I wanted to do a work that related to this contrast. And then I somehow, I think I just randomly stumbled upon the concept of the antipodes.
Can you elaborate on that?
The antipode, I think it's geometrically speaking, is if you take a sphere, two antipodes are 2 points on the surface of the sphere that are at the most distant from one another. So the real opposites. So
you said that there's hardly anywhere
on the Earth,
land.
Yeah, precisely.
It's mostly water.
It's mostly,
It's
land
hard to find
water.
two land points that are exactly opposite.
Yeah, the antipode of these coordinates here, it's the Pacific Ocean somewhere.
And it's mostly like that. Wherever you are, it's an ocean on the other side.
There are fewer examples of where land meets land, and in the end I was trying to find two places on Earth where land meets land on the other side. And since China and Peru was a bit out of the picture because of maybe financial reasons, but well, let's say the choice came down to whether China and Peru, one choice, or Spain and New Zealand, the other choice. I think that, well, I wanted to work in an idea as pure as possible, and I knew that to go through China, you do have to have, like, for example, an invitation, or it felt, to me at least, doing an artwork in China very political.
It would have been difficult.
And it would have been incredibly more difficult. Whereas New Zealand and Spain, New Zealand is almost like European, and Spain is anyways. So it was easier. Also, I had a friend in Spain who could help me. So
were there other points, other choices? Or there's very few?
Very few. The majority was East Asia and South America. Very difficult to achieve and to reach, or New Zealand and Spain. These were the two major.
So it was like efficiency, really. It
was an efficient choice, a choice of.
So you knew somebody in Spain. Yeah,
and so I thought, hey, just anyways, it's going to be really hard to do whatever it's going to be. So at least I'll try to have it as simple as possible in the logistics, if anything. The idea, kind of, the moment I started to research on these antipodes points, I don't know what came first, but I guess the simple thought of, if I witness a sunset on one point on the other side because it's the real opposite, then it's going to be a sunrise. And it's geometrically,
and it's amazing because you never really think about this.
No,
because it's the planet spinning. Right?
Yeah.
So
you have these 10 minutes in which two people can see the same sun at the same time, and but on the opposite sides. So
now it's all logistics. Timing.
Then it became
you have to go there.
I have to go there.
Do the timing. So you planned it all out.
Yeah, planned it out. Due to financial reasons, I had the chance to stay in New Zealand for only 8 days. And I thought, fuck, what if it's cloudy for 8 days?
I know. And this has happened throughout history. Like, I forget who it was.
Yeah.
We talked about this.
The astronomer of the king of...
The guy who had to tried to prove Einstein's theory. It had to be done during an eclipse.
Yeah.
And he tried... I forget who it was. I should know this, but...
But there was also the astronomer of some European king or queen that was in South America to witness the transit of Venus against the sun, and it was cloudy that day, so he had to wait, I think, like years to get an answer. But yeah, he
so
had
you put yourself in this kind of situation.
Yeah, but I didn't have any from any queen. No. So I mean, it was cloudy for 5 days, and the 6th day we managed to shoot it. And the coordinates, thankfully, was quite close to his home, so he just had to drive for 1 hour or two. Actually, he camped there for the entire night because he said, hey, the weather forecast says that tomorrow is going to be full sun, so I'm just going to stay here. and I was also ready on the other side to shoot. And then for those 10 minutes we were phoning like crazy because...
It must have been a great moment when you were there. It's something that happens every day, but now it's got all this meaning around it. Somehow it's one of the most enhanced moments of your life.
Yeah, I felt like passing the sun to a friend of mine on the other side.
Now you come up with the art project, and in a way you're enhancing your own perceptual experience of your reality.
Yeah.
Because of the project, even though you could have just gone there and seen the sunset anytime or anywhere. See what I mean?
Yeah, because you attach a lot of sub-meaning to it.
Yeah, this narrative story or this fictional thing, which kind of shows me that if we just change our thinking, you can change how you see the reality of any moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
the question is how often one can do that.
In a way, I think that's one of the things that art is about. Creating this fictional narrative that enhances and then give that experience to everyone else that you had. And I mean, that's the goal, right? A kind of shared experience.
Precisely.
So you recorded it, and then when you got the footage, I imagine it was pretty simple to edit together.
Yeah.
You just take the two pieces that are at the same time.
Yeah. And there was some, not even, the thing is that I tried to depict the lighting of in the inside of the video changes every 10 seconds because it's the sun that it's setting or it's coming up. So I really didn't have to do much besides putting them together. And the first time I put them together, it was really magic. I thought, okay, this was the idea and this is it.
And then when you showed it for the first time, where was that?
I showed it in the Galerie der Künstler here in the BBK in Munich.
What was it like seeing it?
Well, the idea was the concept behind the choice of showing them like this. So one opposite to the other was that the fact that people could actually really sit in the middle. So being in the middle of one day. Conceptually, I think it was a better choice because I thought of putting them together, but then you are just a spectator.
I mean, the only reason why I like it next to each other is there's that moment where there's one line and you see in one moment that it's the same sun. It's like my mind couldn't grasp it somehow. The first time I ever went to the Pacific Ocean, the coast, like I'm from New York, so I'm East Coast. It's different. I don't know why. It's different than the Atlantic. It feels different. I can't explain why.
Because you're
like I'm on another planet. Okay, that's the only way I can describe.
Probably the compass in your brain, your
I don't
subconscious,
know.
really.
It feels bigger somehow.
Yeah.
And when you look out, there's a lot of fog in Northern California during a certain time of every day. And so there's a moment where you look out and there's no horizon line.
Oh, nice.
And my mind can't handle it. Like I was looking out into an abyss and I was just like, fuck.
This is Vector.
Infinity strikes.
Yeah, I couldn't comprehend it. I couldn't compute it.
Yeah.
It was beyond something I could understand. And that's how I felt with that video. So that's why I like it so much. I like your other work too. I mean, I'm just saying that really hit me in a different way.
Yeah, well,
Like I said, I don't even know if it's art,
Yeah.
But I don't even know if that matters.
It's one of the most instinctive works I've ever done.
I don't know if a lot of things I do are art. So I'm not...
Yeah, this is also a question.
It's more like a thought experiment or...
Thought experiments, yeah, that's precisely how I like to describe what I do.
Yeah, because you're like, I have to make this thing. It's not like, I want to make this artwork. It's more like, I have to see what this looks like.
Yeah.
Like I did this one painting, it was all binary.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to stand in front of it and see what that feels like. That's really what it came down to. I mean, there were other conceptual things behind it. But in the end, I kind of wanted to just see it on that scale, So I met you last year. We were doing a studio walk. I think that's how I met you.
Yeah.
And you were talking about, so I didn't know you. Nobody told me to come see you. You just were here. I was here. for another artist.
Yeah.
And it was like open studios. I was invited, and you were talking about your project with the walking.
Yeah.
And as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, I want him to be in the Vector. And I told Berta Blau, who was the guest editor, and I don't know what it was about that work. I guess a lot of people work with internet and digital stuff, but this somehow, like, one thing I really liked about that work was, I don't know, I felt like it didn't seem arbitrary. It didn't seem like just a concept. Which, there's nothing wrong with having just a concept.
No.
But I'm just saying, you were using Google Maps and technology to make this romantic, almost historical.
Well, in a way, to use the words that you chose before, it was another thought experiment, because it really was triggered by the choice of the materials, the medium, was just a byproduct of the question that I asked myself: what would happen if I would just walk on a straight line and follow the horizon physically, like literally doing it? And since it's obviously impossible due to the logistics of modern life to do so in real life, I thought, well, I could do it with Google Earth, because it just came to my mind.
I like that kind of work personally, so I was attracted to it just because of that. But just the idea that you could circumnavigate the world virtually using Google Maps. I mean, it's really funny in a way.
It is,
but it's also
it's
kind
also
of like
insanely boring, I have to say.
Yeah, but I love the commitment. How long is it going to take?
I think 10 years more.
And how long have you been doing it now?
2 years. With some breaks in between.
All right, so tell me a little bit more in depth about that one now. Because it's great to hear
how it all started.
Yeah, just where you're at now, what's it like?
Well, right now I'm floating in the middle of, not even in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. I think I left. I don't see the Spanish coast anymore since some months.
Okay, so you started 2 years ago. You're like, I'm going to walk around the world on Google Maps virtually.
Yeah, and I thought, okay, I'm going to start from my hometown in Legnano, from the house where I grew up.
Okay, and you walk. And I'm walking west.
I first walked north because I wanted to reach Munich.
Okay.
In a way, trying to walk on my own footsteps in real life. But the moment I was on the Alps, I knew, well, I don't want to circumnavigate the globe going north and then reaching it back up from the south.
Oh yeah, because you can go this way.
I could go also that way.
But you want to go the other way, so you go through countries.
Yeah, I thought, okay, it was a point in which should I go just left or right? And I thought, back then I was into...
If you walk north, the majority of your walk's going to be just ice.
Yeah, or swimming in the Pacific Ocean and abandon the project due to death or boredom.
So did you actually figure out, you're obviously not walking around the horizon, so, I mean the equator, sorry.
No.
You're walking, do you know where you're walking? What degrees of?
Well, I was on the Alps, I think it was on the, I don't really know.
I wasn't sure how detailed you got.
I think the Tropic of the Capricorn or Cancer. Now I'm mixing the two.
Yeah, I don't remember. But
well, anyways, I wanted to walk through
3.
Europe. This was I mean, walk through the familiar places I knew.
Yeah, it's personal.
Yeah, it was, And so I went from the Alps into Switzerland, and then I slided down to France. I reached Brittany, and then I walked along the coast of the Atlantic until I think I entered into Spain through Bilbao, and then I decided to deviate south-southwest to get some Spanish inland. And I never managed to reach Portugal. I sailed from Europe, from the Spanish coast, and back then I had the chance to make a performance. Like the moment I would virtually leave the European coast, it was the time in which I got invited to do a performance about this work, and so I thought to merge the two, and that's why the performance was called Farewell to Europe, in which I just sailed. I had my speech, I narrated the adventures that I had in Europe, and then sailed, which was, at the moment, I think it was clear only in my head, but it became the homage to this Dutch artist Bastianadas, I think in the late 70s or perhaps even the 80s, I'm not that sure. He really left the Dutch coast on a rowing boat with the aim of going to the USA, and he disappeared. His boat was found completely destroyed.
Rowing across the Atlantic. Jeez.
Yeah, on a wooden boat. It was a
Is that
suicidal
possible?
act. No, I don't know.
Because aren't there points in the Atlantic where it goes? You have these huge wakes.
Yeah, but also you can't row. I mean, if you don't have a sail, you're gonna die soon. And yeah, most probably he died.
That's commitment.
There was an involuntary homage to him as well. And now I'm rowing.
So you switched. So you're walking.
I was walking.
And now you have a
treadmill.
virtual rowboat.
Yeah, now I have a rowing machine, the ones that you can find in gyms.
So now I just want to get into the technology aspect. Do you have an avatar? Is there like a virtual character?
No.
Or you just see
you
just see it from the perspective of first person.
Like
in video games.
It's first person. But you don't see your hands.
You don't see hands, feet. You just there's no like up and down.
There is only up and down, and well, since it's VR, if you crouch.
This is what. See, we need more information. So
okay.
So tell me the logistics of the technology. How did you set this up?
Well, it's really not that complicated anyways, because it's this Oculus Rift VR goggles that are connected to my computer.
It's Oculus?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there is a version of Google Earth for the Oculus VR, so all I had to do was basically log myself in, start the program, and start recording this, because I streamed every private performance.
So how do you record it?
With
is it a different program?
Yeah,
it's not within.
It's this program that every streamer on YouTube or Twitch uses. This Open Broadcaster Studio, it's called.
And it records everything you do.
You can set up multiple cameras.
It's live streaming and it's recording.
Yeah, you can choose also only to record or only to live stream.
But you're doing both.
I was doing both in the beginning. Then I started to record anyways only because I wanted to edit the videos a bit before putting them online. And the technical aspect of walking and moving at the same time in virtual reality was a bit tricky in the beginning, but through Arduino, this a tiny microscope. I mean, not microscopic, but it's a chipset. It's as big as your palm, and you can attach multiple electronics onto it. It's really cheap and really easily programmable. And if not, there is a huge set of gigantic groups of people that could help you, and doing one specific thing. So I knew that I needed something that rotates alongside the treadmill, so this rubber band that rotates under my feet, and I wanted this movement to be translated into a digital signal that could signal my computer to move forward or backwards.
You have to somehow integrate with Google Maps, so that, like in Google Maps, you can press the arrow and move forward one step at a time.
Precisely.
So you had to have the movement of your treadmill.
Yeah, from the physical world into
you
the
basically
digital
needed
world.
an interface.
Yeah.
And I imagine you tried to get as close as possible to the correct timing.
The testing phase took me several weeks, but in the end, the idea was to keep the pace of a normal walking.
Yeah.
And in the videos that I did in the beginning, some friends pointed out that perhaps I'm walking a bit too fast, as if I'm jogging, whereas on the treadmill I'm just walking. And then I had to, I reset the whole time, and now it's going really slow, as if I'm just strolling through the earth instead of walking it. But maybe it's even better like this. It's going to take probably twice as much, but so be it.
And it's funny because you're actually walking.
Yeah.
If you walk for 4 hours, you go that far.
Yeah.
And that's why it'll take 10 years.
And rowing, it was also, I needed another interface, because there's this thing that would rotate under the rubber band was useless since I was rowing, and so I just made a system in which I was using the joysticks, and the joystick, the thumb, how do you say, the joystick button of the thumb was connected in front of the rowing machine with two really lo-fi with two strings attached to the handles, and every time I would pull back, the strings would pull the joystick back, so I would move, and then if I go forward, it stops to moving. So you have this constant.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Where is the rowing machine?
It's there. It's folded there.
Okay, so you're not set up. You haven't done it in a while.
No. Because I was in Taipei for 3 months, and then I never set it up again.
I wonder how long. The interesting thing is let's say when the project's completely done, you'll have the entire walk. I wonder how long it'll be. The video or the...
And the question...
Is it a video or is it...
It's multiple videos, it's episodes. Sometimes I cut
How long will that be if you watch the whole thing? I wonder how long it would be.
Probably hours. I never recorded... Well, I never posted online the real time of...
In real time, I wonder how long it would be. Like, would it take a year to watch? Like, how long does it take to walk around the world?
Well, it would take...
I mean, we could calculate it mathematically. How many miles and how many times...
How far? 22,000 kilometers.
So, yeah, kilometers, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. So how many kilometers, how far you go per hour?
If you make... well, let's say you're walking 5 kilometers per hour.
So it's just 22,000 divided by 5. So that's... 4,400 hours or something.
Only?
Yeah, right. Is that right? 5 goes into 24, and then 5 goes into 20 again. So 4,400 hours, which is, if you divide that by 24, I don't want to use my calculator because I'm using the phone to record this. I don't want to mess it up.
Oh, yeah. I could use mine.
Yeah, let's figure it out. I want to know exactly. I feel so dumb. We're showing the world how dumb we are.
So, let's say 22 comma something, but it is only just simplified. 22 divided by 5. 4,400
divided by 24.
It's 183 comma 3.
So that's not so bad. 184 days. So it'll take you 184 days. But that's continuous, 24 hours a day.
Yeah, precisely.
So somebody would have to sit there for 6 months and watch it continuously. I love projects like that.
And watch me walk without sleeping or eating for 183 days.
You have to show that one day.
Yeah.
Promise me. Without stopping.
I promise.
It'll be a 6-month installation.
I wonder how many gig of that video will wait. Yeah.
It won't be so bad. Oh, yeah. Just get like a...
And the question is whether Google Earth will still exist in 10 years, or if Google will exist in 10 years. This is also a question.
If Google doesn't exist in 10 years, then humanity, as we know it, does not exist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know. Giving it for granted. I mean, 10 years ago, Google was just one of...
And there's things that don't exist anymore, like Netflix Navigator. I don't know if you know what that was. Netflix was... the first search engine.
Netflix?
Or one of the first. Not Netflix. What was it called? Netscape.
Netscape.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Netflix is the fucking media, movie company.
Netscape.
Yeah, Netscape. Do you remember
my
that?
father was using it. Yeah.
So
then Alta Vista. Then Yahoo.
Yeah. I mean, Yahoo still exists, which is weird. Once in a while, I'll see a Yahoo.
10 years ago, it was much more present. So I wonder if in 10 years...
God, I forgot about Yahoo.
Well, I've read that Facebook is developing their own...
AOL, whoever thought that would disappear?
Yeah.
I mean, that was the biggest monster. Yeah. You're right. Blockbuster video.
Who knows?
I mean, these things won't last forever, but...
Yeah, eventually we'll switch.
Unless there's some sun flare and wipes out all of our technology.
Yeah, that would fry more than half of the art world.
Yeah. I grew up reading these stories like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea and Moby Dick and 80, what is it, Around the World in 80 Days, all these kind of fictional adventure stories when I was a kid, all based on kind of that story of the scientist who goes out in the field in the turn of the century, like in the 1800s or whatever.
Yeah. Well,
and these things really happen, right?
Yeah.
And so in a way you're putting yourself as one of those fictional characters.
Precisely.
Like trying to find the whale, or trying to go around the world in 80 days in a hot air balloon, or, you know, that's the sort of romance of it. It's like this...
And it's a romance that clashes completely against, let's say, the political upheavals of the last 30 years or something.
But then you have this whole other element to the works where it's very contemporary. It's very much talking about things now. I mean, you could say it's political, you could say it's environmental, you could say it's... or it's talking about technology.
But what I really like about the whole thing is that, I'll say the whole concept is that it really was started out as the idea of what happens if I follow the horizon. And that has always been my main goal.
Yeah.
And then while exploring it, all these other meta levels opened up one after the other in front of me, and obviously I need to address it. It's a byproduct. I mean, it's not a byproduct, but it was something that perhaps was lurking in the background all the time, and then hit me.
And sometimes you don't know, things come up you didn't even know about. I guess people commenting or reacting.
Yeah, precisely.
Are people able to comment as they watch? And it's live streaming, right? When you're doing it.
Like I said, now not anymore. It's always I have this blog. So let's say the artwork in itself, it's a blog, an online blog, where I put all the videos and the updates of the trip. And there would be there is the chance to comment underneath. I never received any comment, any written comment. It was always from friends who witnessed the whole thing. But the biggest change that I want to do from the next year, it's to shift everything towards Instagram and using Insta stories as a format, because I think it's much more. It has much more. I mean, the blog will still exist and it will serve as a sort of a mothership, as a backup. Well,
Instagram really, it's easier to. Like, I barely use my artist website anymore. I'll post on Instagram because people look at it.
Yeah, that's the
Who
point.
Who goes to your website? You know?
But since
you can interact with other people.
That would be
sense. It's the public forum.
It's the public forum, and I think the format of Insta Stories, that is to say, sharing where you are, what you're doing on a regular basis, almost like a dystopic regular basis. I like to, in a way.
That makes sense.
To make some sort of parody also of this.
And they have live.
Yeah.
As well.
Precisely, yeah.
We actually, during the opening, Sophie, she recorded live on my phone. I didn't even know she was doing that. So people were watching. I had no idea she did that.
Yeah, you were on air.
Yeah, that was kind of funny, actually. Which was cool. I probably should do that more often when there's events.
Yeah.
Yes, and people were telling me like they were watching it. My friend Javier in Norway, who does Vector with me, he was watching. I didn't even know he was watching. He was like, "Oh, that was cool watching."
It's better that you didn't know.
Yeah, it doesn't.
But now you know.
It's so easy to be critical of anything, and then yet. At the same time, you're like using technology and phones for everything, and like you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
You're like.
Well, I am really skeptical about critical books that really narrow down the problem. As a fanatic of the big picture, I need books like that to be happy.
This looks cool.
This is really, really cool.
The patterning instinct. It's talking about.
It's art. It starts out with
humanity as a pattern, or something?
No. It starts out with the evolution of the human brain within the first apes, and since we started to make patterns and to understand patterns in nature, so that we developed language, so patterns in our science, and also patterns in the emergence of abstract thinking, and it became a history of religions, but mostly because it explains how we evolved our sense of giving meaning to things. It's really interesting.
Jeremy Lent,
Yeah.
The Patterning Instinct, Cultural History of Humanity's Search for Meaning. Yeah, I'd like to read that.
It's a nice tome. Also really light to read. It's packed with information,
Yeah.
but it's...
I like reading too. I was part of a book club for a while,
Ah.
and we read one nonfiction book a month. So
I miss fiction, I have to say, or novels. I really miss them because I'm just drowning in
no, it was
non-fiction.
nonfiction.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, novels. Yeah,
I missed it.
I still read novels. I love science fiction. So
Yeah.
okay, so to go where we left off, are we rolling? Yeah. So this project's going to go on for 10 years. You're actually going to keep
Probably.
doing it.
Yeah.
I love the
as long as I
commitment.
can.
I gravitate towards things that take a long time. I just like, I don't know why I like it. Maybe I like to be punished. Or I have to feel like I did something that really
Yeah, when you
was
when you
long and
turn
hard.
around and look what you achieved in the last 20
There's
years.
something fulfilling about that. But you do it more than me. Like you take longer than I do for your project. So I'm like, wow, okay. I've met my match, you know.
This is the only project I could really allow myself to think as a long running one, because if I would,
But you're going to do it.
yeah,
right?
yeah, and
Unless you die.
unless I die,
You
yeah,
will
or,
stick to
or
it.
my router dies.
I hope
or
you
something.
stick to it. I'm your one fan.
Like I said, I'm really excited to switch to Instagram.
I'll actually watch it if you do that.
Yeah, well,
But I'm not going to go to your blog.
yeah, that's the point. And also because it's also
How do I even get to, like,
well, but
But-
this is because I didn't have Instagram in 2017. This is
Yeah.
why because probably
Yeah.
otherwise I would have kept it there. But I liked more the concept of a website, because you do have more control and more.
well, I think
pages
it's
and
important to
more-
keep that going.
Yeah,
Because
of course.
historically,
Yeah,
that's actually going to be the storage of the whole thing.
yeah.
Whereas
like
on
a mothership.
Instagram, to me, it's about now and
Yeah, I never have the
Yeah.
the concept of grasping in its totality
Yeah,
something
no.
with Instagram. It's always
So you
it's
do
the
need
eternal, like you said, it's the eternal now.
yeah. What are some of the things that came up? You said some things came up conceptually and politically and all these things that you didn't really think about when you the first vision is very clear. It's like, I want to walk around the world.
Yeah.
So, but now I remember you talking about last year. There's some issues about
Well, the first
contemporary.
meta level that popped up was when I decided to go left or right. And back then I was reading into another book, obviously another book about the history of humankind, and the idea to walk east or walk west. So to sail west was in a way, in my mind I was mirroring two moments of European history. So shall I walk the Silk Road or sail to the Americas? And to be honest, I don't know why I decided to go first west and decided to sail.
Well, it just maybe it
instead of-
felt right,
It felt,
but then there's a reason for that. You know what I mean? If you dig deeper, you don't know what it is, but you could put meaning behind that.
yeah, absolutely. I guess it felt, well, in a way, since I've been, well, there was this the point of familiarity in Western Europe that made me feel more familiar walking through it. And also, there was I knew for a fact that the policies of Google, since everything is rebuilt in 3D, I would have had more chance to interact with 3D objects and 3D cities if I would have moved west other than east, because
That makes sense. Yeah, because the infrastructure.
the majority of the Earth in Google Earth is still 2D. It's still like a texture glued on a surface. And
But all of America is pretty three-dimensional now.
yeah,
So.
precisely. Yeah. North of Italy is as well. The south of Italy is absolutely not. So yeah, it was more of a choice of how much I want to entertain myself. Even though in the middle of France, I found myself walking for weeks into two-dimensional landscape.
What happens when it's two-dimensional?
You just have, it's like a picture taken from a satellite of the entire city, but glued. So cars are on the same level as roofs and everything
But what does it
else.
look like on your feed or your?
It's just
Is a dot moving? What do you see when you're looking through the goggles?
Well,
what am I
see
seeing when you're going on a two-dimensional?
I see an entire, a three-dimensional landscape so the sky above, the earth, and if there are some hills, they're mapped, so the surface of the earth is shaped alongside those hills.
But it's not accurate.
Trees and everything, they're not rendered in 3D on top of the original surface. They're just glued as a texture on top of this land. So it looks like a De Chirico painting,
Okay.
but flat. If all the objects would be flat on the surface.
Oh, weird. I think I have to look at it.
Yeah, it's interesting in the beginning, but then it becomes insanely boring. And I remember how I cheered when, after weeks, I walked by and then I reached, I think, the outskirts of Lyon in France, and I saw, for the first time, a three-dimensional cityscape on the horizon.
I would love to see when somebody discovers this project like 200 years from now. Let's just assume we make it that long.
Yeah.
These are the things that thrill me, though, like picturing somebody way in the future finding this in somewhere file on the internet somehow
like
as some
into
grad student or something, and like
Found this lost internet
imagine
address.
if you saw something from 1981, something like this in whatever form it was in then. You
Yeah,
know?
you would,
It'd be
would
kind of
marvel in all sympathy probably for, but yeah, the 80s are not.
I mean, a lot of artists, when they're doing things digital, they go back to this kind of 90s aesthetic for some reason.
Yeah,
With,
now it's
like
yeah,
GIF
you're right.
animation and all that. I'm not sure why.
Because it mirrors culture. I mean, now the fashion is back in the 90s.
Instead of showing things that are contemporary technology, a lot of times they have this aesthetic of the 90s.
There are, but
yeah.
I think it's perhaps how do you say? I've seen a lot of these. What you're referring to, but I know for a fact that there are also, thankfully, others.
Maybe it's more like in 2007, around then, 2005, 6, 7. There was all this art that all had this kind of blocky GIF animation kind of
Yeah.
stuff,
Well,
which was nostalgic in a way.
yeah, the concept of nostalgia. But it's permeating the entirety of culture and politics as well. Anyways. So that was one element. The other element that it became clear, but I didn't really want to push it too much, was the obvious crossing borders constantly without any problem. Or
Yeah,
without-
because you
without
don't-
any, because you're just walking
You
through.
can just cross borders.
You're just walking
I
through
didn't even think about
the
that.
earth.
Because that kind of rolls into that other project with the borders.
Yeah,
But we'll talk about that in a little while.
yeah, because it's stuck.
Yeah. You can just walk around the world. You don't have to worry about... Like I'm going to Istanbul next week.
Ah.
First time going
Nice.
to Turkey.
Never
I
been
had to
there.
get a visa. Like you don't have to, but I had to. It's really easy to get a visa. You just go online and it costs $20.
Mhm.
And I got it instantly. You know, after I did the email authentication, it just was there.
Yeah.
But you don't have to deal with anything like that.
But let's say it's an obvious byproduct. That's why I didn't want to put too much effort on it. And like a couple of people would tell me like, "Oh, it's really political. You can cross borders." Like, yeah, of course you can. You can also visit a website of a Peruvian shoemaker. Also, what's the fuss all about? I mean, it's.
Well, there are borders on the internet, right?
Yeah, yeah.
There's firewalls.
Mhm.
Some countries have firewalls.
The borders
so
in
there
this
are
sense
borders.
are visual.
Yeah.
More than practical. I mean,
Search.
certain military areas,
Yeah.
for example,
Military.
mapped on Google Earth, they are not rendered in 3D. So you have in the middle of a city this flat, black, censored
Blob.
blob of pure black.
Ooh, maybe that's a new project. Collecting all the black blobs around the
Collecting
world.
all the, yeah, China is going to be only 100% two-dimensional, I suppose, since
I don't know.
I also
Maybe
don't
they
know.
have.
I didn't want to spoil myself and look at it.
You'll find out when you
I
get
want
there.
to find it out, yeah.
The other thing is, as you're walking, are there people?
No. That's the point that I wanted to... The next point that I wanted to mention is the pure solitude.
How does Google map it without people? Because you see people, and when you zoom in, you know...
In Street View, yeah.
Yeah, you see it, but when you're doing this
Because it's, well, first of all, because the texture are really, really raw. So even cars, they look like blobs. You know that it's a car because it's a blob that kind of grows from the surface of the street, with textures of a car glued on it, but it's really, really low quality.
But by the time you get to America, is it going to be better and better and better?
That's the point. It evolves as I walk, and it's also really interesting. This program for the Oculus, it's supposed to let you fly through the city, so to have a bird's eye view, fly through the skyscrapers, and not necessarily glue yourself to the ground and walk the ground. And that was, I mean, I knew that from the beginning, that the quality of my environment would have always been as less realistic as possible. It looks like I'm in a video game of the early 90s, which I grew up with, and it makes me feel
But
really
I wonder
at home.
when you get to the border of America if it's going to be all of a sudden clearer. I wonder if it's going to look like Street View. I wonder.
I have no idea, to be honest.
When you're rowing, do you know where you're going to hit?
No.
Do you ever go, how do you stop yourself from going in a circle or around?
I follow the sun, so I know that the sun
Okay.
is there and it's setting there, so more or less I'm going in the direction of the sun, so it's pure west. And I'm aiming, I didn't want to go on a straight line, so from Spain straight, following the latitude. I wanted to go slightly south so that I could perhaps reach the Bermuda Islands first, and then probably Florida or Mexico if I'm steering too much.
You're going to have to make
south.
decisions. Where you walk in, are you going to walk through Mexico? Are you going to walk through the United States, Canada?
One idea was, well, if I reach Mexico, I really wouldn't want to cross Mexico horizontally and then start after a month to sail again for
I mean, if it
the
were
rest
me,
of
I
my
would go to
life.
New York and then go down.
Yeah, I would like to cross the States, and I thought that if this rowing advent, because rowing, for this project is one of the most boring and
It's just the ocean.
it's just the ocean,
Just
and
blue.
it's badly. They mapped what is interesting is that it's not a flat surface. They mapped the bottom of the ocean, so I'm basically
You're in,
I see blue hills and mountains and it's always an up and down, and I have to admit I'm starting to get really VR sick
Yeah, that can
after a
happen.
while. That really happened, and I
That
also
happens to
developed.
people I know who, not VR, but with drones.
I don't know if my brain was ready to tackle this project, but I grew like
You're
since
probably getting brain damage.
probably, yeah, because since a while I'm starting to
No,
be
it's fine.
immensely disturbed by immense objects, and it happened to me the first time when I reached
Wow,
the
there's a
Alps.
psychological effect.
Yeah, I was on the Alps, and behind me there was this. I was the Matterhorn, the mountain in Switzerland. It was so big, and normally if I'm in the mountains, so you admire the whole landscape.
Yeah.
You're not terrified by it. But in virtual reality, I was completely terrified, and had to stop for a week or something, and then slowly always look on the ground, because if I would look around, I would get completely overwhelmed by these gigantic objects next to me. And the thing that pisses me the most is that it translated back into the physical reality, in which if I'm tired or something and I'm in front of a gigantic skyscraper, I panic.
Wow, I didn't even think about
And
it.
I googled it, and it's called megalophobia. It's
There's a
thing.
name for it.
It's a fucking
Megalophobia.
phobia. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I need to get over it because this project needs to continue,
Yeah.
and I don't want to be fully damaged for the rest of my life. But yeah, that was one of byproducts that wasn't necessarily. I really didn't think about it in the beginning. So yeah, well, the idea, I think I will walk through America. I hope to land on the coast of South America so that I could walk up north, cross the United States border, and the idea would be actually to walk back the early human migrations into the Americas. So walk back to Canada, Alaska, the Bering Strait, and then into Russia, and walk all the way back to Europe from
Okay.
there. So skipping the Pacific Ocean entirely,
Oh, yeah. That's cool.
because it's gonna
Well,
be.
you already did an ocean.
I
and
would-
the
yeah.
Pacific Ocean
I
will
have-
be like,
It's twice as big. I can't do that.
Yeah.
I can't.
Next will be Mars.
It's already there. Not for VR though.
No.
I don't
But
know.
we're going to go to Mars. If Elon Musk gets his way,
Yeah.
it's going to happen.
Well, I thought of driving on Mars.
Yeah.
Like he already sent
I wonder how
Tesla into
mapped.
space.
The moon is pretty well mapped.
Yeah,
So
it is.
I don't think there's Google Moon.
On Google Earth, for the website, you can. I mean, not on the website, but if you download Google Earth, the program for your computer, then you have the choice to load
The moon.
Mars, Pluto, Mercury, and Venus.
And it's all the satellite imagery
Yeah.
that we've mapped.
Yeah. Pluto has been mapped. There are also some pinpoints on Pluto already. It's
That's pretty cool.
some interesting places that you can.
It's not a planet anymore.
Yeah, but then it became a planet again and then not again.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, there
there's
are-
so many planets now that are
Yeah.
bigger than Pluto, or they're not planets, but...
Yeah. Objects.
So I don't know what other projects you want to talk about. I mean, maybe we can talk about, like, what are you working on right now?
Right now, I'm experimenting a lot because I've been in Taipei for 3 months.
You were there
And
for 3 months while I was back?
I was
in
there
America?
from April till July. Yeah, I think you were in the USA.
So you were gone from April to July. I was here
Ah.
for some of it.
For Vector.
No, for the Munich Biennial.
Ah, okay, yeah.
So I was here. So you were there. Maybe that's why I didn't see you then. When I was here in the summer, I was
Might
here
be.
for like 2 months in the summer. I don't think. Did I see you? I don't remember.
Well, we met really briefly at the
Right,
opening of the,
Yeah.
in the House of Kunst.
Okay.
Then I was already back.
What did you do there?
Well,
And what was that? It was a residency.
it was a residency, yeah.
So you applied.
I applied and
How
then
did you
through some-
even hear about it? In Taipei, you said.
Yeah, in
Okay.
Taiwan.
Taiwan.
It was it's a residency organized by this Lars. that
Yeah,
you
he's
also
in the
do.
Vector.
Yeah,
I love Lars.
and he organizes this
Yeah.
residency.
Oh, so I didn't realize it was both ways. I thought it was a one-way.
No.
Where
He
you-
invites. It's a tandem. So
Oh,
he
that's-
invites
that's
Korean
great.
artists,
Okay.
or was it Taiwanese artists.
Yeah.
And yeah, this year I was the.
I guess there's a facility there.
Yeah.
And-
He has contact with this Taipei Artist Village, and it's the facilities there are outstanding.
There's a gallery and a studio and a
Gallery,
place to live.
studio, and it was great. It was my first time in Asia in the first place, so I spent an entire month being completely overwhelmed by the culture, and I wanted to absorb as much as I could because everything was fascinating, and that kind of impeded me from doing some real focused research.
I think one of the great things about these residencies is you just get to encounter another culture, and
Yeah,
sometimes people, like in New York and Brooklyn, when people come to a residency from Europe, they feel this push to work, and I'm kind of like, you should probably see New York because you can work at home, like absorb a lot, and then you bring it back with you.
yeah.
Because once you're gone, if you're just working in the studio, you could do that at home. So
Yeah, that's true. In a way, I was lucky enough not to be able to finish what I wanted to do in the beginning, because let's say I wanted to film into a karaoke building where you know this predominantly Asian type of karaoke situation where groups rent small rooms. They all gather around in small rooms and they sing. And I wanted to film through the corridors and get all sorts of audio coming from, but it was not possible because as they told me, most of those karaoke buildings are owned by the Taiwanese mafia.
okay.
So I thought, I don't want to die because of
Yeah.
art. It's just,
You could have met with them and told them you're doing an art project.
Yeah,
The mafia.
maybe they would.
People
would
are
have
pretty
accepted
open.
me in there.
Somehow we can navigate.
No, but
lot of
the moment
situations.
I went before asking them, I went inside with the camera because I wanted to do
Yeah.
some documentation pictures. They kicked me out instantly.
Yeah.
So, okay, but if people are going there with their phones and doing Insta stories, then it's fine.
Right.
As long as you have a camera, then you are
Yeah.
an enemy of.
Well, you don't know what's going on there. Privacy is probably really important.
Yeah, but then what if you? I mean, if you can film with your phone, why can't you film with a camera?
I don't know. It's different.
It's interesting. But anyway, so I didn't manage to finish that, which was. But I absorbed the thing that I absorbed the most was the musicality of it all, because everything there has a jingle. The trash truck has a jingle that when it stops it plays this jingle so that everybody would come in the street and drop their things inside. I was surrounded by so much music.
I didn't know that.
Well, at least to me, maybe, perhaps I was at that time I was sensible more towards music than towards the visual arts. And
I mean, we don't know what hits us when you go to a new place.
no, that's the point. I brought my synthesizer with me there, and I started to compose some music. And then it became clear that I think the next steps of what I'm working right now is trying to develop a format in which I could like obviously a performative format in which music would merge into storytelling and into like creating settings in which I perform.
I forget music's a big part of your life too, right?
It is since 2 years, not
okay.
like fairly recently. So I came back with the idea of making my next project as a musical album and translate into texts, into lyrics and music, the topics that I've always been interested in. And it obviously was a bigger challenge than expected. So it kind of, this album project, which is going to probably contain 5 to 6 songs, not many. It slowed down. I started really hardcore, but then I'm full of self-doubt since it's the first time I'm doing something like this. I'm experimenting a lot. And now I'm working on a performance that I'm going to do in May.
Storytelling.
Storytelling. I'm writing a story that I'm going to half, recite and half sing. And put some melodies, some beats in it. And
wow, that sounds cool.
Some inflatable sofas.
Where are you doing it in May?
Because I said
where are you doing it in May?
In May
at Lars's space?
Yeah.
Maybe I'll be here.
I'd
I'd like to see that. Because you're describing it to me, but I have no sense of what you mean.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, okay.
Well, I can.
I'll have to see it.
I can give you a brief teaser trailer. I want to have some inflatable sofas, transparent, made of do you know this tardigrade? It's like the most resilient.
Prehistoric. They can exist in space.
Yeah.
Wait, you talked about them last time. Why were you talking about tardigrades last time?
Probably because I was already... No, it was... No.
You were thinking about it?
I always been thinking about it, also because the Deutsches Museum is bombarding us with advertising in which on their posters there is this tardigrade.
Yeah, tell me about the tardigrade.
It's one of the most resilient creatures on the planet. And they never evolved since millions of years. They're always the same because they can survive next to volcanic...
They don't need to evolve. They've stopped.
They achieved the ultimate... They overcame the ultimate survival obstacle.
And what are they, literally?
They live in water and they're microscopic animals. They're called arthropods.
But it's not a bacteria.
They eat bacteria. You could the biggest ones, they are like 0.5 millimeter big. You could actually see them with the naked eye.
And are they everywhere?
They live in water mostly.
Okay.
Or next to the most extreme conditions where a human being would die instantly. So the bottom of the ocean next to the, with all the pressure. With all the pressure next to the volcanic, or they survive in space and all the chat. And since I read an article that to make a test of tardigrades surviving in space, the Israeli space program put them on a spaceship, put them on a lunar probe that crashed on the moon. And there is still this theory that, and it happened I think a couple of decades ago, or definitely some years ago, and it was half of a scientific joke, but then maybe not really a joke. Let's say perhaps the first life on the moon, it's tardigrades that we brought there.
Yeah,
and they survived there for a while. That's
kind of scary though, because we can infect another planet.
Precisely.
So.
And the story I'm writing about, it's about a hypothetical scenario in which the tardigrades landed on the moon. Crashed on the moon. Yeah. They not only did they survive, but they thrived. And then when the next humans will arrive, there is a scenario that.
Yeah.
And it's like this sci-fi story.
Then they evolve. I like that.
In a way,
it's a great story.
I wanted to.
Is that one of the songs?
This is one of the songs.
Okay.
Yeah. Or it's. I think the songs are gonna be only tiny snippets of this big story.
Yeah.
That I'm gonna tell, but the format that I mean, this is precisely, and the room is gonna be filled with these sofas shaped
like tardigrades
where people could chill on and.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, I actually don't see that many storytelling types. When I was young, there was so much of it. When I was really young, but that was a big part of history, right? Where you'd have these traveling performers who would tell stories, and I guess that's how people got their news, you know?
yeah, definitely.
So, this is cool. I hope I'm here.
Yeah.
So that's what you're working on.
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
The whole thing just sounds pretty
absolutely.
crazy.
But in a way, I wanted to obviously to deliver the same messages that I would deliver, for example, with the sun work. But I needed, or let's say, I wanted to try something new, and this since I never done this, I wanted to try out. If it turns out like shit, then so be it. I will.
Yeah, I feel that way too. I think a lot of people do.
Yeah.
We're kind of crazy that way. We do these. Sometimes we just do these weird, meaningless things.
Yeah, because we're scared of adapting to one medium that we're gonna bring into the grave. I mean, I really want to.
I'm not that way either, and but I respect people who do that. Like, I think it's just as interesting somebody who does one thing. Well, it's not one thing, but they focus on something specific, and then they spend a lifetime doing a million variations.
Yeah.
And that's also commitment.
Definitely.
You know?
But perhaps people like us commit to the cause, or commit to the idea, or commit to the concepts, and then however we achieve those concepts, then we can test.
Yeah, I'm more like that. When people ask me, what do I do? I mean, I guess I think of myself as a painter, but I really been saying project-based. So it depends on the project.
Yeah.
It might need paintings, it might need video, it might need something else.
But maybe the drive is always the same between the paintings and the...
Yeah. The way I approach video and photography is more like a painter.
Yeah.
But
project-based is the best definition.
That's what I've been saying. Instead of multimedia, because that doesn't feel accurate either. I don't think of myself as a multimedia artist.
Yeah, because it automatically implies the concept of media.
Yeah, and that you have to have
performance in which you just.
I did a show. My last solo show was all painting. So, and then everything I've been doing in Munich has been all video. I don't know.
Yeah, I always disagree with these etiquettes.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't work like that anymore since decades.
I mean, my family thinks I'm a little crazy with the video. They're like, how are you going to sell that or survive, you know?
Well, first I need to do it.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to be happy.
But you don't think about that at all. You're just doing the projects. I mean, there's a lot available, so like residencies and grants, and you can, right now there's a lot going on to support that, right?
There is. I mean, thankfully I have a side job that I'm...
Yeah, me too.
That's important. Yeah. But...
and it seems like you're able to show the work, which is the key.
Yeah.
A lot of times there's a push to get a gallery and that kind of thing. And but it's not really necessary. If your goal is to make projects and show them, I don't think anybody will ever have a problem.
No, of course not. But yeah, I'll say I would say that my aim is more grant focused than gallery focused.
If they're available, I mean, we don't have that many grants in the United States, so.
Better.
But they exist. They do. I mean, in a way, it's not that different. Instead of a government thing, we have a nonprofit.
Yeah.
A very healthy nonprofit.
So
they get the government grants.
Yeah.
So then they do projects for artists. You know, we have these residencies. It's kind of an amazing thing where you, as a human being, you can go to Taipei for 3 months. Think of the freedom in that.
Immense. at the beginning also
I mean,
overwhelming.
I know a lot of people who make a lot of money and they can't up and go somewhere for 3 months like that. I guess that's the thing that one of the benefits of living an artist lifestyle is there's a certain amount of flexibility.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to, you're not necessarily trapped into a scenario.
You don't want to be trapped in
But then
scenario.
again, you're living a different lifestyle because you're not necessarily stable enough to maybe have relationships or to, you know, or, well, it's,
point taken.
or, it's a different system. It really is. I'm trying to think of something else that's that free. I mean, even when I think of music bands, they'll go on tour.
Mm-hmm. I think in my scenario and in scenarios of all my friends who are also artists, what really, independently of how shitty our side jobs are, how well paid or anything, or how successful we are within the art world, it's really the freedom of having an idea and putting all your energies and resources into having this idea done, and this on repeat forever.
And I am with you. I think it's amazing.
Independent.
But it's such a weird thing because we do it. If you think of, say, a scientist or somebody who has a tech company, it's similar, right?
Yeah,
you have
definitely.
an idea and you research it, but there's actually an infrastructure where you can survive and get paid. And if you have a tech company, you are trying to raise money to do that idea, or somebody making a film.
Yeah.
And artists are strange because we'll do it regardless.
Yeah.
It's kind of a strange thing, right?
Yeah. Well,
like
there are also some
people outside of this must think it's insane because it's like
all my colleagues think it's
Yeah.
insane.
there's this whole ecosystem of people around the world who
Ecosystem.
ego
That's
an
like
ecosystem.
ecosystem.
Yeah, that fits too. There's an
Yeah.
ecosystem of people around the world. Well, you definitely have to have an ego around the world of people devoting all their energy and time and education, everything to fiction.
Yeah.
Because the scientist is actually trying to push the scientific knowledge forward and in ways that can be proved and that will last.
Yeah.
And then
And art brings the questioning forward. I came to the realization, and a lot of, let's say most of my social environment as well, that the arts and the sciences are not opposites at all. They are really, really like twin sisters. Because, the creative thought is, a good scientist needs to be creative as well in how to, mathematics is pure creativity if you think about it as well, in that sense. I guess that, like I said, the two are really closer, like the two faces of the same coin in a way. That is, try to explain the world, how it works this way, why perhaps science tries to understand why the world works this way, and the arts, for what reason it works this way, or for what purpose. But also religion does that. For what's the purpose of the world and why does it work this way? I think it's all the creative, all the intellectual processes or faculties of the human brain, whether it's the arts, the religion. It's this constant push of trying to understand what surrounds us and why in the first place. And the sciences, in a way, are starting to get together into getting a better picture, because when it all started, they were divided. It's like biology is biology and doesn't have anything to do with astronomy, but they are the same in a way. And the arts has always been combining multiple aspects of the same, of the same reality. It tried to always describe reality taking from all sorts of aspects of human life. whereas the scientists, for a while, they've been really, really narrow in doing so. But since this constant the quest of trying to merge quantum mechanics and relativity, and it's like they need to be merged because they have to function together, and nobody really figures out how they function together. And then came the biological, the ecological movements from the 50s on, and one of the biggest, battle horses of them was, we need to gather scientists from all the aspects of the scientific field to develop a model of the world that really, really works, and it's really explainable. And this is the birth of the bigger picture, the pictures from the photographs from NASA, the pale blue dot, and all this. It triggered this chain of thought, and the arts merged much more with the sciences in this bigger picture idea. It sounded really chaotic, I hope.
That
makes sense. Okay.
It really relates to me what you said about the two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
And I don't know how. I mean, from the artist's point of view, it seems like that. From the scientist's point of view, it might not. But they do seem open. I have a feeling that they're somehow serving some core function.
Yeah.
Like there's a need for both. It's this quest for
meaning,
understanding or meaning, or maybe it's just evolution, and it manifests when you have a brain. That's what, like, evolution, I guess, is entropy. So maybe entropy, when you have a brain, entropy is sort of happen. It's like a force, right? So maybe that's what happens when it hits the brain. It forms this like evolutionary process. It's constantly trying to.
Yeah. Well, arts.
I don't know
if
that makes any sense. I made less sense than you. But it's been around since that's in a way that's how we know about the past, is because of the art. Besides the bones and the.
Yeah. You mean the cave painting?
Yeah, any cave painting or sculpture or tool, any creative anything.
Yeah. Then this book is gonna really, really blow your mind.
I'm excited to read. I'm wondering if, as things get more and more automated, and with AI being able to, if we have this sort of advanced AI and it's able to handle a lot of the tasks, then maybe the role of the artist becomes more and more important, because and I mean artist as a creative mind becomes more and more important, because once you have a calculator, you don't have to sit there and do math. You can you can scale up.
Yeah.
Because you have this tool. So I'm wondering if, as we scale up with artificial intelligence and robotics and nanotechnology, all these things, in a way we get closer and closer to what the artist is doing. Creating stories, trying to understand patterns and put all these things together, that maybe that becomes more and more important.
Well, there is this AI that developed a musical symphony, and it works, and it's beautiful, and if you hear it, it's because music is mathematics in the end, and it's mathematical ratios between the notes that gives us the feelings that we feel, because it vibrates within our nervous system. And
music is the way that we do mathematics on a physical level.
Yeah.
Like,
but if an AI can do that also better than the majority of people of us, then it really makes you think, okay, art might be next.
How come when we developed a calculator, which was when did the first calculator come out where you could just buy it cheaply in the 70s or maybe the 60s?
Yeah.
I mean, we weren't like, oh my God, the calculator is doing math better than us, we have to be afraid. Nobody even really noticed. They're like, oh, this is cool. And then there was this push like, well, you're not allowed to use the calculator in class. But now that doesn't matter. But what I'm saying is,
no, you're right.
Just because music has you can create an algorithm that makes music just as good as, say, Mozart or whatever. I don't know why that would be a threat, because music is mathematical. What it says to me is it's kind of amazing that human beings can create music like that. Like because it's sort of a computer, a machine or an artificial.
Well, it's a brain in the end.
Yeah, an artificial. I mean, that seems like it should be better at us. If music is mathematical, it should be better than. But it sort of amazes me that we're actually this hominid, or that we're able to do that. You know, like the chess issue. When Kasparov got beaten by what was it? Deep Blue or Watson? Which one?
Deep Blue.
Yeah.
Deep Blue. Yeah.
And he was really. I heard an interview with him, and he was really upset for a year. But then afterwards, he was like, "Wait a minute. Chess is a mathematical game. There's only a finite amount of moves, its patterns."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Of course, the computer will do it better. We shouldn't really think it's more a matter of it's amazing that human beings can do this."
But I wonder if there would be an AI that would ease up, let's say, the role of the artist, then what would the artist need to do? I think we're talking sci-fi here, because it's. I mean, nothing comes to my mind.
Well,
that could,
let's say
like an automatic matching between a title and an object.
Yeah, I mean, you could have artificial artists. Yeah, why not?
Artificial.
I think that's fine.
An algorithm that learns from itself is already a piece of art.
Yeah, I mean, if you have some non-biological system that we created that can do everything we can do, then by that time we'll either be integrated with it, or we will kind of fade off, and that'll continue.
Yeah.
But its humanity will continue. It's like, and it'll get better. It's just, it might not be a biological creature, animal, but or we as biological creatures integrate at the same moment. I mean, that's happening. We're integrating. Oh God, I'm talking too much. I should be hearing from you. This is an interview with you. You just bring. Like I said, I could cut a lot of this out.
Yeah,
because it's more about you. What do you think about this? So.
About what specifically? Because this is a lot of.
Well, this is a common thing that people are talking about. There's a certain fear that we are going to be replaced, or that our time is up. What do you think about that? Because it came up, you brought it up.
Yeah.
So
I remember a lecture from this, like, became like a superstar of the historian, this Yuval Noah Harari, who wrote Homo Deus and Homo Sapiens.
Yeah.
And I read both books, and they're fairly interesting, but I found him to be, as an author, to be much more interesting while giving lectures or in interviews and talks. Because then the questions that will arise are much more specific. And brought precisely to this question, he said, in the end, and I think I completely agree with him, in the end, certain jobs, certain professions will be replaced, and but the most humane ones, that is to say, philosophers and historians, these are the figures that will stay around longer. Perhaps I would also add artists, because it's as machines need to be taught to do something. The same question, for example, the self-driving cars. Should the car hit the old lady or the baby? It's a philosophical question.
Yeah, it's an ethical.
Could be a logical one, but it's ethical, philosophical, and
we don't even know what the right ethics is.
Precisely. So
maybe we'll actually figure out what the right ethics is because of this.
Yeah.
Well, all these different philosophies of ethics right now.
Could be.
Maybe we'll actually find a global ethics because of that. But
yeah, this is one side. The other side is in these times of the constant present, where history is being rewritten, is being negated, is being completely historians and the actual politics, national politics, are failing to succeed, because they are just, in a way, they're all victims of the global market that has much more power than the single states. then what you need is a figure, for example, the figure of a historian that has a completely clear overview of the direction of history that since 10,000 years is occupying human culture, and obviously together with scientists and ecologists and whatsoever, philosophers, an alternative solution could be found. And these are roles that the machine cannot do.
I guess I think, why would a machine make art? Because it's fictional. There would be no desire. I can understand an art project where an artist makes a machine that does it.
Yeah.
Because they're talking about humanity and all these things, conceptual. But I'm saying, why would a machine want to make art on its own? If you give a machine a task, and let's say it's an artificial intelligence on its own, it would want to perfect that task. But why would it have a desire to make art? It doesn't really have... I can understand why it would want to solve an equation or solve...
Well, art is the culmination of abstract thinking. So you could say that a machine, an AI right now, it's much more aligned with, let's say, the brain of, I don't know, a worm.
Yeah. But it wants to solve a task, right?
Or a squirrel.
Like
it wants to solve a task.
Like,
you put a squirrel, you put the nuts behind the glass, it needs to go through the glass, it gets a nut.
And that I understand, and science is doing that as well.
Yeah.
But why would it want to do art? Because we're not solving any problems.
No, this is the thing.
See what I mean?
No,
what
I think,
desire would there be?
I think that if the artificial intelligence would develop the biggest obstacle that artificial intelligence needs to overcome before being creative is abstract thinking. That is to say, connecting patterns that don't have necessarily a connection, a logical connection, but they have a meaningful connection. So the moment that an artificial intelligence can grasp the concept of meaning, then it's blown all out creativity. It could understand.
So if I hear what you're saying that if it reaches what we would call consciousness, then it would have the same desire to have a quest for meaning beyond just like science. Because I could understand it having a quest to figure out all the answers to the universe, but that's different from art. We don't ever achieve any real answer. It's all kind of fictionalized.
Perhaps the steps of how an artificial intelligence could develop art. And I guess that if it would first become conscious, self-conscious, it would first try to give meaning to itself and to the world around it. This is why probably before developing art it would develop some form of religion.
But art doesn't really even fulfill a religious role either.
But not anymore. Before it used to, and quite successfully.
It was mapping... I guess it was a form of oral tradition. Before you have things written down and people could read, you could create a painting that tells the story, and then people could see that story. So it elevates the religion. It advertises the religion.
Some sort of showing it off.
It's like an information delivery system.
Yeah, precisely.
Maybe it's an information technology is a better way to think about art.
We could, it definitely is.
It's a really strange, abstract information technology.
Yeah,
we're not going to figure this out, but I guess that's the thing. If something becomes conscious, will it have the same desire? I'm not sure. Maybe it'll only have a desire to do things that are functional and logical and rational. Or maybe it will have this quest for meaning. I'm not sure.
But to be honest, the only brains are the brains of all the living beings that are here on planet Earth, and they're all the same. Some of them are less developed, others are more developed. And this is the only difference. It's just a number of...
very little margins.
Yeah, it's just about how many synapses are there.
Yeah, but imagine when you have, if you linked... Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming we keep going in this direction, we're going to... something's going to be superior to us. Either us, like a post-human kind of integration, or something outside of us. And it'll be something way beyond anything we think, kind of singularity thing. Or multiple singularities.
I think I'm trying to figure out if a brain doesn't have a body, how it would perceive its environment and try to give meaning to its environment, because what would it think?
I don't know.
Since it doesn't see, it can see everything at the same time.
It could probably think.
I am.
It could probably think.
I think
in parallel. It could probably think millions of things all at once. You know, if you compare, say, a bacteria or something where it just reacts to one signal.
Yeah.
And it only has the capability of like going in a different direction if it encounters something in front of it, compared to what we're doing. You know, think of the difference between, say, a really simple one-celled animal and what we're doing with this 360-degree like.
Yeah, it's just the same. Yeah, it's the same difference.
So it'll be that. We'll be like the bacteria and whatever.
Yeah. So for the bacteria, what we do, it's unthinkable. And
we can't even conceive.
No.
Maybe it would be aware of. It'll just be able to create millions of virtual worlds all at once, all doing different things all at once. I don't know. We could. I made one work about this actually. I'll tell you about it later. Yeah, because I don't want to talk about my stuff too much. But I'll tell you about it after.
Can we make a tiny break so that I could?
Yeah, let's do it.
I read a book about the history of music, and how music evolved in the human brain. And
I would love to read that too. You read some great books. You should make a book list for me.
Well, I have it here. You can take a picture.
I'll post it.
I bombarded it with post-its because it's.
Yeah, you really get into the book.
Yeah.
You probably take a long time.
Yeah. It's. But I read it only once. This one I really want to go through it again because
cool.
it's.
I'm gonna photograph these books. So I can get them.
It developed. It asks the question. It tries to answer the question: what developed first, language or music? And in a way, music is part of language. Language is part of music. They co-evolved simultaneously. And from the singing of monkeys to phrasing, it tells a story at a certain moment. And they call it a historical moment that lasted probably millions of years. Hundreds of thousands of years. So it's not that one person. And music, first it was just like communicating messages. Like they makes the study with bonobos, for example. They say they have different pitches and different phrases, musical phrases, to say there is an eagle or there is a leopard. And they saw that obviously while reproducing these phrasings, the bonobos in the tests were reacting. So they would play "There is an eagle," they would look for shelter on the ground, and say if there is a leopard, they would climb up the trees. And this is how probably the early hominids communicated with one another. Then with the emergence of, and this is why I love to read many books, that all of a sudden they all come together. Mm-hmm. And with the evolution of abstract thinking, they started to give the phrases started to get more complex. Mm-hmm. And at a certain point, I really don't remember how it all began. But there was a split in between music and language, but they came from the same root. And language became more practical to convey logical thoughts or messages, and music to convey emotions. Whereas in the beginning, emotions and messages were the same because our brain was smaller. And that's why music has much more power than visual arts in core in your guts, because it triggers parts of your brain that art can't reach.
That concludes episode 3 of the Vector Interview podcast. I want to thank Federico Delfratti for participating on the project. It was an honor to talk with him. For more information about Federico, go to federico-delfratti.com. For information about our current and future Vector projects, go to vector.bz. And you can find us on Instagram at @3_vector3_. If you like the podcast and you're feeling generous, we ask that you make a one-time contribution for the episode. 50% of the proceeds will go to the artist. You can also support all of the Vector projects by becoming an ongoing subscriber on our Patreon at patreon.com/Vector Productions. I am Peter Gregorio. You can find me on Instagram at Peter_Gregorio. And if you want to see my artwork, visit my website at petergregorio.com. Javier Barrios can be found at javierbarrios.com. And his Instagram is _Javier_Barrios. All of the music was generously provided by the amazing Liz Kosak. You can find her and check out her projects at zardcom.com. The title drops were provided by my comrade from the future, the German artist Sophie Lindner. I also want to thank Melissa Koberger for her help with research and writing. And a big thank you to our producer and editor, Todd Tracy.
This is Vector.
I will leave you with this quote from Federico Delfrati. If virtual can be interpreted as a non-tangible representation of a physical object, then the stories, needs, dreams, and ideas we humans tell one another since thousands of years are part of this superfamily of virtual entities, and their space of action is the brain. Thank you for listening. Vector Interview Podcast is brought to you by Vector Productions, Inc.
Thank you for listening to Vector. Bye.